Hi, I'm Cat Boynton, and welcome back to Young Professional Actors. We did it, so can you. Today, I'm very excited to introduce siblings Ryan and Avery Sell to talk about their experiences in professional theater. Avery Sell originated the role of Natalie Hillard in the Broadway production of Mrs. Doubtfire, as Ryan Sell originated the role of Charlie Bucket in Broadway's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So hey guys, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks for asking. So, how old are you?
I'm 15.
Okay, and who got involved in theater first?
So actually our big sister started first, and then our brother caught on, and then I also caught on as well to the theater family bug.
How did you get involved? Did you join a production?
Well, actually, our parents and pretty much our whole family is like a theater family. Like my parents did the Broadway show of Cats, and we own a dance studio, and our uncle actually is a musical director in South Florida. So it kind of just runs in the family, and our first show that we did was, well, my first show that I did, role that I did was in South Florida. I did Name at the Wick. So that's we kind of got started in that, and we grew up in our dance studio watching our sister and all that. So it just we always grew up with it, so.
That's amazing. Your whole family can sing and dance and act. So do you ever perform together? I mean, now everybody's at home and there's not a lot to do. Do you ever put on personal projects?
My brother and sister, we all did Shrek together, and then me and my big sister did Meet Me in St. Louis together as well.
Yeah.
And how did you guys find your agents or managers?
It's kind of a long story, but I used to go to a vocal teacher in Florida, and she always does this workshop in New York, and I went to the workshop in New York, and so did my sisters, and they have like managers there, and you do an audition and you get to do the workshop, and you just see what happens, and if they decide to pick you up, then it's fine. Yeah, and they did, and then she introduced us to other agencies like CESD and Abrams, and it went from there.
So do you guys have the same agent or manager?
Yeah, we do. We have the same one.
And can you explain what's the difference between an agent and a manager?
I think the difference between an agent and a manager is an agent is they are the ones who send you the auditions, and a manager is like for more negotiating and like personal, like if you were to get something, they would negotiate with the people and more interaction with you. Like they're like the in-between for an agent. You know what I mean?
Yes. So then you both landed roles on Broadway, and including a national tour. That obviously had a huge impact on the rest of your family. Like you mentioned your sister, and I'm sure your parents. How did this change your living situation?
Well, when I got Charlie, we obviously had to move to New York, so we all just kind of packed our bags and we found an apartment in New York. Actually, it's kind of a funny story. The person who we got the apartment from, her son was actually in Matilda. So, and the boy before him was, so it's kind of like people just revolved that apartment. But yeah, we pretty much packed our bags and moved up to New York, and now we all live there, and we kind of travel back and forth between New York and Florida. And
so you're based in Port Richey, Florida, and then you're currently living, right now, you're in New York City, correct?
Actually, I mean, we live in New York City, but because, COVID and everything, we had to, what happened is she was in rehearsal for Mrs. Doubtfire, and they were in rehearsal, and they called up our parents and said, you need to come get Avery because Broadway's shutting down. So that was kind of an unfortunate thing. And that night were watching the news, and we just decided, you know what, we're gonna go home so that we're not, stuck in the city in case we ever needed to get out. So we had flights booked, but we didn't feel comfortable with flying. So we just jumped in a car and we just drove all night through to get home. And we've been here since, I don't know, what was that, March?
Wow. Yeah, everything's crazy because of what happened, or what is happening still. So when you guys were both on Broadway at different times, did your family move on up with you?
Our mom actually did. So, do you want to explain it?
What? Oh, yeah, so what happened was I was in Charlie a couple years ago, and she hadn't got Mrs. Doubtfire yet, but she was actually in GRINCH at the time, and that was a tour. So my grandma flew up to be with me in New York, and then my mom went on tour with her, and my sister was doing regional productions in Florida, so my dad was with, our dad was with her, so we were kind of all spread out and doing different stuff, so.
Yeah, that's so cool though.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you got to connect with one another, like from your different shows.
I actually took a weekend trip when I was in the show to go see her, and because it was in Utica, New York. So I was like, I can make it. So I jumped on a train and we went to go see her, and I spent the weekend with them. And I got to see her and hang out, and then I had to go back, of course, but she moved on to a different city.
So then, when you were all in your separate shows, how did you accommodate school or academics?
So we're all homeschooled, but on Broadway, they provide us a tutor.
Yeah, the production always provides a tutor so that the kids can balance their academics while also doing rehearsal. And it helps that we're homeschooled, so if we need to catch up, it's not a problem because we can just go home and, do it if we need.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. So did being on Broadway and all these different professional productions, did they lead to any other opportunities? Like other interviews or performances?
So actually, there's always a press day when you're doing Broadway and national tour and stuff. So you always get interviewed, and there's a bunch of other days, and you also get interviewed as well.
Yeah, so basically what happens is in rehearsal, there's like a press day, like she said, and different, companies like Broadway.com and Theater Mania and Playbill come and interview you, and they ask you like this different questions and whatever. And Good Morning America, like when I was in Charlie, actually, I got the great opportunity of getting to perform on Good Morning America in the morning, and we did a number on there, and the whole cast was there and everything, so that was really cool. I was going to say also the Tony Awards, you get to perform on there too, which is really awesome.
Wow. Do you want to talk about that? How was that experience for you?
Actually, Charlie didn't perform. Willy Wonka, he was in the aisle and he did a little bit there, but the whole cast didn't perform. But we got to go and we got to see the Tony Awards and sit in the theater. I'd never done that before, so, that was really awesome.
I'm sure. The Tonys are amazing. Yes. So what has been your most memorable experience? And this could be something funny, it could be sometime you goofed up and you learned from it, anything.
Yeah, so in Mrs. Doubtfire, there's a scene called La Rosa, and in previews they change stuff, they change lyrics, they change dances, they take away anything. So in one of the scenes, it's called La Rosa, I go over to Mrs. Doubtfire, and that night they changed my line, and I went up to Mrs. Doubtfire and I said my line, and after my line I realized that I messed up. So I said, "Oh, sorry," and he goes, "Oh, it's okay, dear." And so that was really funny, but I've learned from that experience that you can make mistakes, but you just have to keep going. And I'm so glad that I had Rob McClure next to me because he helps a lot. And actually, I have a second funny moment. We were practicing the scene La Rosa as well, and there's a part where I go through the dancers, and my shoe fell off, so Mrs. Doubtfire threw it to me, and I caught it. But those are my funny moments.
Those are great. How about you?
I have one funny moment. In the show, at the end of the show, there was a glass elevator and it raised up in the air and then it would bring us back down. But one night, you know, obviously anything can go wrong because it's live theater. So one night we were in the descent coming down and we had a cue for when we were supposed to step out, but the elevator wasn't working that night. So we were probably like, I don't know, 8 or 10 feet off the ground, and we jumped out on our cue, me and Christian Borrell, and we landed, and we were like, whoa, what just happened? But we kept going because you got to keep the momentum going and you don't want to stop. But when we got off stage, we were like, well, I guess we're just glad we didn't fall off into the pit or something.
Right, which has happened before, and I'm sure. So you mentioned working with artists like Christian Borrell and a lot of other successful, well-known professionals like that. Did you learn anything from them when working with them?
Yeah, actually, I got to work with Christian. She works with Rob. But to watch them like in rehearsals or in previews, it's really like interesting to watch because they've done so many shows and they're so experienced in what they do. Like with the comedic timing, like there was a scene in the beginning of the show that I did where the comedy had to keep rolling, and I had never done anything before, and neither of the other boys. So he came up to us and he was like, so why don't you do this? And you know, maybe it'll roll along faster. And we did it and it clicked, and it was like really interesting to see how somebody who's done it for so long just knows how to like keep it rolling and make it work.
And also, they're very, very nice they're so nice to us, so it's so nice to see them do their thing up there.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I'm sure getting to meet them and learning and working with them is an eye-opening experience. So what are you guys doing now? What are you working on? Do you have any upcoming auditions, projects, anything?
I have actually been doing some voiceovers, which I love doing, so it's so fun to do.
Yeah, after Charlie and for me, once you get to be a little bit older as a boy or a man, whatever, a male, you start to phase out of the theater scene because of your voice drops and everything. So you move into the television and film section. So I really like that because it's more of a challenge because the scripts are a little bit deeper and they're more grounded, and you know, obviously there's some comedy ones too, but yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of auditions lately. Like I auditioned for Stranger Things, and I auditioned for 13 the musical on Netflix that they're going to be doing. So there's a lot of auditions cool that have been coming up and keeps you busy and tries to distract you from the whole COVID situation and whatnot.
Do you guys still get nervous when auditioning, right?
In my personal thought, I sometimes get a tiny bit nervous, but I mostly get excited to go do it.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I was a lot more nervous than I am now, obviously because I didn't do it as much as we do now. But, I mean, I still get a little nervous, but it's more like happy nerves or excited nerves and adrenaline that gets you in there, and, you know, you're ready to go and do your audition and try to do the best you can. So, I mean, the one thing I can say is be prepared, because that'll really calm your nerves, because you know that you're going to have a good audition because you are prepared, like learning your lines, memorizing them, having an extra song prepared if needed, so that if they throw anything at you, you're not going to be like, oh man, I'm really confused. And also, like,
you should probably be very flexible for
yeah,
changes.
Because they'll tell you, I want you to try it this way, and if you're not, you know, if you only practice it one way, then
stuck in your head.
Yeah, exactly. You may get stuck and not be able to change it up.
Yeah, that's very true. So what are you guys doing, or what do you want to do in the future? Do you want to keep on pursuing a career in theater? Do you have other interests?
Right now, I would really want to make my debut on Broadway, but when I'm older, I would love to still keep acting and singing and dancing.
Yeah, my goal right now, I'm almost 16. I'll be 16 in October, so my goal I really want to be Evan Hansen and Dear Evan Hansen. That's my goal right now. I mean, it's kind of a long shot, but I'll definitely try.
Of course, and that's an amazing role. So I totally see where you're coming from. So if you could go back and redo one experience or one role in professional theater, what would you do?
I would want to be Natalie in Mrs. Doubtfire again.
I would definitely do Charlie again. Right now, that's the one I would love to do again if I was, 4 inches smaller and didn't have a changed voice. I'd definitely jump back in time and do it again.
Of course. So then one last question. What is your favorite musical?
My favorite musical right now is Mean Girls because I love the songs.
Mine's Dear Evan Hansen. Yeah, that's definitely my favorite right now. I mean, I don't have favorites, but that's the one I'm really intrigued with right now.
Great answers. That's all I have for you today. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm so glad I got to meet you. And I look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to be here. See you. Thanks for having us.
See ya.
Nice to meet
Bye.
Join us next time when we'll be talking to Sky Friedman from Jupiter, Florida, who appeared in the Broadway production of Annie. She did it, so can you.